I don't know if you've noticed, but some of the guys that got us into the Iraq war in the first place are now criticizing Obama's policy. That takes a lot of nerve. Being criticized by those guys for your war policy is like being called ugly by a toad.
Strong words from Senator Angus King of Maine, sharing his take on the president's Iraq critics, including the former Vice President Dick Cheney, who this week published a scathing opinion piece along with his daughter Liz Cheney. We're joined now by Dan Senor. Early on, 2003, 2004, he was in Iraq as the Bush administration's efforts were just getting underway. He was the chief spokesman for the Coalition Provisional Authority. Dan, thanks very much for coming in.
Good to be with you, Wolf.
Is Angus King, the senator from Maine, right when he says someone like Dick Cheney, who got the U.S. into this war with a lot of bad information back in 2003, really should just shut up right now and not give advice to the president?
Well, I'll say a couple of things, Wolf. Anybody who has experience dealing with Iraq should be weighing in right now, because we've learned a lot of very difficult lessons.
Even someone who made many blunders, making predictions that turned out to be disastrous.
Because Wolf, if Senator King is right that anybody who was for the original policy in Iraq should, quote, shut up, he's talking to many of his colleagues in the United States Senate, whether it's Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, whether it's the current Secretary of State or the Secretary of State in President Obama's first term, Secretaries Clinton and Kerry. It's his Vice President, Joe Biden. These are all people who are very supportive of the 2003 Iraq War.
As you know, the legislative branch, they depend on the executive branch for intelligence, for information, for briefings, and they were getting these briefings. Wolf, you remember that.
They saw the same intelligence that the executive branch did. They could make their own independent decisions. There were members of the Senate that voted against the Iraq War, so it's not like they were forced to vote for the Iraq War. And I just also say many of these members of Congress who are making the points that Senator King just made, I met with a number of them when I was in Baghdad, 2003, 2004. There were congressional delegation trips that came over. We met with these members all the time. We briefed them. We walked them through decisions we had made. They weren't critical. They were supportive. They were trying to help us out. And now a lot of the second guessing you're hearing, more in the post-war period, which is what I was involved with, is just second, sort of Monday morning quarterbacking.
I guess that's frustrating, and I'm sure you're frustrated just like everyone, to see what's going on. You heard my interview with Ambassador Samir Sumaidi, the former Iraqi ambassador here in Washington. He sees his country being ripped apart right now, a city of 2 million people, Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq, now controlled by these ISIS terrorists. There were so many glowing predictions. I'm going to play a little clip. You and I spoke. This is back in 2004 when you were the chief spokesman for the Coalition Provisional Authority, and you were very optimistic as well. That's what I want to get your reaction to the disappointment you must feel right now. Listen to this.
Everyone was concerned about a civil war. It didn't happen. Everyone was worried about a humanitarian crisis. It didn't happen. In these war situations where there's some level of ambiguity that's to be expected, you also have to give credit where credit was due. And we are in a situation about 15 months after the war where we have a sovereign democratic government in Iraq.
All right, so you must be as frustrated, as angry, as disappointed as anyone, because you had such high expectations. A lot of us did.
Yeah, actually, the period in which that interview occurred, which is, I guess, 2004, we then went through an extremely dark period in Iraq where really the wheels came off. This is the bombing, you remember, the mosque in Samarra in 2006. You had Shiite, militia death squads going after Sunni communities, Sunni terrorists affiliated with al-Qaeda, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi responding. Place was out of control. You go to a morgue in Baghdad, 2005, 2006, hundreds of bodies lined up each night. It was horrendous. And in 2007, 2008, President Bush, in the face of incredible unpopularity, both personally for him politically, but also unpopularity for the war, developed a new strategy, empowered an innovative and entrepreneurial general, David Petraeus, and turned this around. And the key lesson, the key takeaway there is this connection, this complex connection in Iraq between security and politics, between security and power. And our ability to influence the politics, the inclusive politics in Iraq, is directly connected to our ability to help provide security. Prime Minister Maliki, who we're watching with great frustration right now, just a couple years ago, about 4 years ago, had taken on Shiite militias.
Yep.
He had taken on Muqtada al-Sadr and the Mehdi army. And the Sunnis had taken on radical Sunnis with the Anbar Awakening. So we've seen this happen before. Now, I'm not suggesting for a moment we need anything on the scale of the surge, but if we want to have any influence with the Iraqi government and do the sorts of things that Ambassador Samedi was just talking about, we need to have some security influence.
Dan Senor, we'll continue this conversation. Thanks very much.
Good to be with you, Wolf.